have your fear, which might become reality. And you have Godzilla, which is reality.
I'm sick of Godzilla.
Wake up,
There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
We're safe here. No human being can understand that. The monsters on Monster Island can understand it.
Whether he returns or not, or is never again seen by human eyes, the things he has taught us remain.
calling Monster Island. Monster Island.
Hello, YHS and Monster Island listeners. Jay Key here, and yes, I'm doing the intro, so you know that means one thing. The Tattooed Titan of Tokusatsu, Mr. Jacob Walsh, is off duty tonight. In fact, he's celebrating a birthday. I won't tell you which one, but he's celebrating a birthday, so we do wish the happiest of birthdays to Mr. Jacob Walsh. I hope he's out there getting some awesome kaiju toys, and hopefully we can talk about that on the next YHS on Monster Island, which, sneak peek, we will be talking about Godzilla versus Gigan, the 1972 classic, if you ask me, but it is the 50th anniversary of Gigan and that film, so we'll be talking about that. But you know what? There's no time for me to whine and moan and cry because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. And I didn't want to go a week without covering some of this stuff. This will be a little bit all over the place. I have zero notes. So if you see me looking around, I'm not looking at any notes. I'm not looking at anything. I'm truly just, my eyes are wandering around. I don't know why. But you know, we got to talk about some stuff. I'm really excited. We can talk a little bit about last week in the Geoffreys from YHS, which was great. But I want to talk, hey, we'll do kind of a normal show. I'll talk about some stuff I've been watching, about some stuff that I've been buying, and then kind of a main topic. Maybe we don't have one of those, but I'm sure we'll get into some tangents and whatever. So hopefully you can enjoy the ride. It's a captainless ship. So, we'll see what I'll do. I might end up talking for 7 hours, or it might be 7 minutes. I don't know, but we'll go with it. Like I said, no topic, nothing set in stone, but we'll have some fun. So first off, let's look back to last week. For those that have been watching us, at least over the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about the Geoffrey Awards from YHS, specifically Toy Anxiety, hosted by Ryan Dole and Craig Goldberg and our very own Jacob Walsh and Abigail Gardner. And to me, the Geoffrey Awards, when they debuted last year, I was just a fan, just watching it, at my house, blew me away. Like, the thought of a toy award show is great, but I thought we were just always going to be destined to have, some random dude on Twitter post what his favorite toys were. And we have a little bit of in the kaiju community, a little bit of like X plus figure of the year and stuff from a little bit larger fan bases. But like from this broad toy collecting as we know it, nobody had really capitalized on that, at least to my knowledge, in a big way. And Toy Anxiety did. And the fact that they did it kind of this tongue-in-cheek award show with a lot of funny bits and songs. I mean, it is one thing when you have, Craig and Abby and Jake and Ryan, I guess to some degree, are all musically talented and they're funny and do great, impersonations. And so it does make it conducive to something like an award show. But last year they knocked it out of the park, and this year's was even better. I mean, it felt like a legitimate, like big time YouTuber production. And it was, I guess that's what it was. And it felt like it because it was. The opening number was hilarious. I mean, just kudos to that team. They put a lot of work into it. And what was neat about it was we actually got to participate as YHS on Monster Island, and we did our very own Kaiju Toy Line of the Year award. It wasn't there last year, so this is the first one. I mean, YHS on Monster Island wasn't there last year. So that was really cool to be part of it and to be able to talk kaiju toys for about 5 minutes in that in the award show without getting kicked off the stage or anything. And it was super fun. And for those that did get a chance to see it, go see it. But if not, I'm going to expose the winner right now. Our Kaiju Toy Line of the Year was the Marusan 350 line. It beat out some pretty heavy hitters. You had Medicom Vinyl Wars was in there. You had both X Plus Daikaiju and X Plus D4Rail was in there. Bandai Movie Monster Lines, Mondo. So you had some really cool kind of contenders. And I love the fact that Marusan won. A Sofubi specific line, in a world that I think a lot of people, their entry into Godzilla has been more the realistic looking, whether higher price points like X Plus or lower price points like Bandai. And the fact that a Sofubi Line 1 was cool, I think it says a lot for the people that voted on these awards, the people that had input, that something, you know, their signature releases this year involve translucent vinyl and glitter, and this is going to win the award. I think that's so cool. I think I probably had money on Metacom, just because I think they're probably the sleeping Godzilla releases this year. You know, we've talked a lot about Nanraku and Saku. I think there was a chance that they could have won, or maybe X Plus, Kaiju series, the Mothra we talked about a lot on the show, and they did some stuff with Legendary, and even Mondo. Like, I don't think Mondo deserved to win. There's too many, you know, things to iron out with those guys. But I mean, YHS. I think the YHS listeners and those that voted on these awards, they probably have a familiarity with Mondo more so than just a normal kaiju fan because of all the other collecting they do, whether it's the collectibles or the prints by the great Tom Whalen, and all the other great stuff that Mondo releases. So it was cool to see Marusan 1. Like I said, it would have, them and Metacom probably would have been my 1A and 1B. So very cool. Marusan 350 is great. I mean, everybody knows I love the Bio Goji line. In fact, I have, let's see, I just picked up my 9th. You know what? I'll just go and show it right now. I picked up this guy this week, my 9th Marusan Bio Goji. This is the dark glitter. I mean, look at this bad boy. I love it. Same sculpt that I love so much. And, you know, this is just the darker vinyl with the glitter in it. So very similar to the Disco Goji, as Ryan Wilhelm would say. But absolutely love this guy. And so this is 9. Now, I do have... Oh, man. You know what? Maybe we do need to talk about just toy collecting and Sofubi collecting in general and kind of where my head's at. But so hopefully it'll add, you know, some of you guys that are struggling with it and what to do this week and what shiny object we're chasing, what squirrel we're chasing. So like I said, I do mostly collect what I like. And that's it. That's the only real parameter. You know, there's no reason to be a completist. However, for some reason, I've gotten down this little completist rabbit hole with Marusan Bio Goji. But the point that's different between that and some of the other times I've gone down that rabbit hole outside of the world of Sofubi, I'm still enjoying it. Like, I get excited when I see a new Marusan release, like the one they just had with the green glitter and the gold spikes. I think it's a Godzilla store exclusive. Like, I mean, the heart starts racing, and it's not like, oh my God, I got to get this or I'm less of a human. It's, that's so awesome. I have to have that on my shelf. It looks so beautiful. So I think I'm okay. But if I start getting upset that Marusan is releasing all this stuff with this Bio Goji sculpt, please somebody reach out to me and say, hey, Jay, stop it. You don't need to be a completist when it comes to anything Sofubi, even if it's something as specific as the Marusan line. But I say that, and I do have 5 more en route to me right now. So I'll be up to 14, and I think I still have like 5 more to go. So I'm getting one of the 2 blue marbles that they just released. The one that's mostly blue, not the one that has the white head that's the glow in the dark, but I have one of those coming. I found the blue sparkle just for like peanuts, so like I had to get that. I've sold that and talked about that. I love that one, but I just don't have it. So I picked that one up. And then the 3 new kind of surprise glitters they dropped on everybody, the light blue, the purple, and the red, which are all awesome. Look, like I'd say the glitter is more like this as opposed to like the blue and the green ones. It's more like a translucent vinyl, more of a translucent vinyl, I should say. And so they look really cool. So I have all those coming. So Marusan 350, hey, I guess the long-winded way of saying, not only did they win 2021, but maybe they're on pace to win 2022 as well, because they are just going nuts. And that, or somebody, maybe Eiji Kaminaga, the president over there, is just trolling me. It's like, how many will this idiot buy? And the answer is a lot. So that's where we're at. But kudos to Marusan 350. I did see that Kaminaga actually liked our post when we promoted it, that they won. So that was kind of cool. But, you know, I don't know if the CEO of Hasbro and Mattel are doing that with a lot of these award shows, but that was very, 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 very cool. And but the line wasn't just the Bio Gojis. They have so many of these, the Kaiju Salon pop-ups and some of the other cool stuff that they do. They're 54 and they're 71. They released a lot of variations of that. They did some Mecha Godzillas and Heteras. And the Mecha Godzilla, the Black Hall Sparkle. I absolutely adored that. And I show it off on the Geoffreys. That could have been, if we would have done a figure of the year, I think that had to be in there. In fact, actually, we were talking about this before the award show because we did Kaiju Toy Line of the Year, and maybe next year we do add in Toy of the Year, Kaiju Toy of the Year, because I don't know if it would have been just 1-to-1, right? I don't think every Toy of the Year would have been represented in the Toy Lines of the Year. In fact, if you ask me right now on the spot, if I had to pick like my 5 Toys of the Year, I'm actually going with the Megalon X Plus, the Rick, so that's 30 centimeter line. Was it in Toy Line of the Year? I'm going with the Bullmark Aurora Mechagodzilla. Once again, not in Toy Line of the Year. I probably am going with the Disco Goji, but maybe the Black Hole Sparkle. So regardless, Marusan 350 would be represented in there. And then I'm trying to think what else. Mondo, the Umi variant, I think would be in my personal one. I don't know if that would be the right choice for like the greater audience. And then, honestly, Super 7, the Shogun reaction, the first one they released, that had a nice little buzz about it when that was their initial release. And what a cool concept of taking the Shogun Warriors Godzilla and making him into this small reaction figure that had a $20-something price point. Everybody could grab one. Very cool. And it was a really cool thing that Super 7 did to kind of start off this. We'll talk about Super 7 a lot on YHS on Monster Island about what they've done since then. And I know they're trying to make up some ground with some of the teases that they've done recently. But, I'm a big fan of the Figure of the Year category, just like Best Picture in the awards, the Academy Awards. It should be a hodgepodge to represent all the types of interests that are out there. And I don't think it should only be the 5 most expensive, most exclusive Sofubi items out there. I think it should be probably something like an X Plus, like the Megalon, probably some Sofubi items, probably something that's accessible, whether that's something from Bandai Monster series, like the Godzilla the Ride figure, or something like the Shogun Super 7. I think that's a really cool one. Those would be at least in my short list. And I think that, honestly, the Megalon and the Bullmark Mechagodzilla would actually be my top 2. I think the Megalon is just an amazing sculpt, and it's just a wonderful X Plus. It generally, I think, is one of my favorite X Plus sculpts. Then, and the Bullmark Aurora, I think if you ask somebody what is a great gateway Sofubi item, that Bullmark Aurora, because there's no doubt it's Mechagodzilla. It's not goofy looking or anything like that, and it's a nice play on an older sculpt, but it's this translucent with the some of the colored inside of it, and the translucent with how you basically know, depending on which way the light is, what type of light you have, it looks like a totally different figure. I think it captures the essence of what Sofubi brings in making a character-based toy into a piece of art, and I think it's great. And it's a accessible price point. It was pretty widely available early on. In fact, I think I got mine for like $80, and now, they're a little bit more expensive now, like in the 150 range, but this is not one that you're going to have to wait years and years and years and years to buy. So absolutely love that one. I think that would be in my 5 figures of the year. Yeah, I think Bullmark Mechagodzilla, the Aurora, I think Megalon, the 30 centimeter. I think the one of the 2 Marusan 350s I talked about, either Disco Goji or the Black Hole Sparkle Mechagodzilla. And then I'd probably put one of the Mondos in there, probably the Umi variant, the Designer Con exclusive. And then, and then I would probably put the Shogun Super 7 in there. Once again, not my favorite figure, but its contributions to kaiju collecting, especially domestically, it's probably one of the best because it probably got in more hands than a lot of the other stuff outside of Playmates and those toys. And I think it was a cool concept, and it was really neat and unexpected, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. So I could defend that. And you know what? The more I think about it, what about that really cool Spring Kaiju Festival, the Lavender Hedera D4 reel? I think that was something that was really awesome. Or one of the Onraku Onsakus, the lottery exclusives. They could have been in there for Metacom, and I don't think anybody would have said anything. Or the final. Oh, you know what? Didn't even think about it. The final scene, Metacom, Onraku Onsaku Godzilla, the all skeletal one. That one people absolutely love. That one could easily be on there. So it would have been a really cool contest. But to my point is, just because those lines X plus 30 centimeter and Bullbark weren't in the Kaiju Toy Line of the Year doesn't mean that they didn't produce good toys, because I would say probably the top 2 are from lines that weren't even represented. So cool stuff. But anyway, the Geoffreys were awesome, and go and watch it. And you will get to see Jake and I. Well, we'll get to see Jake the whole show because he's one of the freaking hosts. But we do make an appearance representing YHS on Monster Island. But kind of, I was thinking about this the other day, and it goes along with toys. Mondo and Super 7 this year the Kaiju toy world might be best known for the fact that we now have 2 very different style companies in the Kaiju landscape domestically. Now, NECA was in there before, and NECA was, they produced affordable figures, bam, and of course Playmates and that stuff. But with Mondo and with Super 7, you're going to get different style of figures. Meaning, for Mondo, you have the statues, and they have the Sofubi line, and with Super 7, you have the reactions, and you have hopefully the ultimates and whatever that might end up being. So you have that variation, and they're just going to be more collectors focused. Even though, once again, NECA's great. I mean, I collect TMNT, the animated series. NECA's wonderful, but their Godzilla sculpts didn't do much for me, even though I used to collect them all. I don't own one now, but they didn't really fit into place. And I like at least Mondo and Super 7 are doing something differently, or trying to. Whether they're successful at it long term, I don't know. But I think that's kind of the number one news story of the year from the toys. Isn't all of the different awesome releases we got? It's the fact that now Mondo and Super 7 are not only in the game, but they're trying to make pretty big splashes. Mondo's a little bit ahead of Super 7 right now, but and Mondo has been, if anything, controversial, and controversy creates cash, right? But you have the animated statue, which everybody was overjoyed because it's the first official release of the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla, but people aren't loving the sculpt, and people aren't loving the sculpt for the price point. I bought mine. I looked at it. I didn't love it. I don't have an emotional connection to the Hanna-Barbera cartoon like some people do. So I want to be very clear. If I did, I get it. I've overpaid for stuff that people look at and they're like, what the hell did you just buy? As I look at my all green, sparkly glitter Titanosaurus. But I'm okay overpaying for stuff you love. I didn't love it. And I was able to sell it pretty quickly and whatnot. And I forgot I even owned it. So yay. But not everybody's favorite. And I'm not even going down the unfortunate placement of the really thick black line. I didn't even notice that until it got brought up on social media and stuff. So I just was looking at it. I was like, this is a non-articulated NECA figure that they stuck on a stand and charged me 6 times the amount that I pay for a NECA figure. So yeah, there was that. And then of course, all the hubbub about Mondo and basically how impossible it was to get the Sofubi items. Now, once again, sucks, not cool for us collectors, because we want to have the ability to get what we want. But for those familiar with Mondo, it's par for the course. For those super familiar with Sofubi, par for the course. I mean, these are always small production runs. Mondo always has everything sell out in 2 seconds. Try to get a Tom Whalen print, right? It's possible. And so none of that should have been shocking, but somehow it still was. I think it was the interesting cross-section of people going after these. But they are also, the Attack Peter statue is getting a lot of positive buzz as far as everybody's excited about getting that. The Mondo, the 89 statue, I've heard mixed reviews, but it caused a lot of positive stuff. And then of course, I mentioned Super 7 and Mondo. We of course still have Playmates around, but Mezco. Now, I have issues with Mezco because I've pre-ordered all of them. I don't have them, and they're asking me to pre-order more. So I'm a little curious if they're going to fall kind of the way that NECA did, where nothing is bad about them. The price points are fine for what they are, but do they fit into a niche with a common collector? Because what I feel as you evolve as a collector in Kaiju, it seems that you either go down one of 2 rabbit holes, or really one of 3. It's I want to evolve or level up to the most realistic sculpts have, and that eventually gets to X Plus, and that eventually gets to your XM Studios and Spiral Studios, and the $2,000 or $3,000 statue ones. A lot of people stay in that X Plus realm, which is awesome. It's a great realm to be in. Then, or you have people that eventually, and we talked about this on the Sofubi Jamboree with the Kaiju All Stars. You migrate over to Sofubi, and then you start kind of going that route, and it's exclusive there. And then the third one is you kind of do both, and that's what I'm in. Like, I have probably 70-30 Sofubi to X Plus, maybe vintage Bandai. I'd put in that bucket loosely, and then so maybe 25, and then like 5% miscellaneous weird stuff. But you can go kind of one of those three routes. And I don't know where Mezco fits. Like, to me, I'm almost viewing Mezco as like could it compete with vintage Bandai? Could it compete with Super 7 maybe on that first? I hesitate to use the word premium because there's different gradations of the word. But does Mezco fit in that first step you get when you get out of Playmates and Movie Monster series and more modern Bandai before you get into Sofubi or X Plus or SH Monster Arts? Maybe that would be kind of in there. Will it can be like a compete within that realm? I don't know. So it's interesting to see where Mezco fits in. I'm a little worried about my purchases. I think it was a fear of missing out, especially they led with Destroy All Monsters, and that movie means a lot to me, but also like I can get a lot of monsters for a pretty low price. My cost per monster is pretty good. And so I bought it. I have a feeling that the Mezcos, even though they have Destroy All Monsters, they have Mothra with the Shobajin, and then the recent one with Hedorah, I have a feeling, I don't know if I'm going to keep those. Maybe I will. I don't know. But it's interesting to see. It's a fun time to be a kaiju collector because we're getting more Sofubi. We're getting getting more X Plus, but X Plus they do what they want to do, man. But then Playmates is releasing new stuff. Super 7 hopefully will get beyond just the reaction figures, even though they release some cool teases on that. Mondo is going to continue to grow and evolve and get better at kaiju, hopefully soon. And then we're still going to get our thousands of Bandai Movie Monster series and now Mezco. So there seems to be a toy line and a brand for every style of collector. And that's something that if you'd have told me that in the early 90s when I got my first Bandai toy from Japan, I would have been like, are you kidding me? Like, what? There's different echelons to collecting, and it's just amazing. So it's a good time to be that. And I'm going to continue to push. I would say like I get more excited probably when I hear the new releases for Sofubi than I do for X Plus. That doesn't mean I'm getting rid of my X Plus. I'm getting rid of one though. But anyway, but I still have the ones that I like, and I think that they do fill that niche for me, that need, that desire to have some movie accurate, really awesome sculpts, and I enjoy them being in my room and looking at them and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that does look like Titanosaurus. Yes, that does look like Godzilla 1991 or whatever it might be. So I'm excited about that. But I do tend to glare more at my amazing wall there of Marusan 350 Bio-Gojis, which is going to be getting bigger. We'll have a Space Danger conversation at a later date because I'm really hitting that right now, and I'm getting a little scared. I might have to get rid of like full collections, which I'm not cut out for, but we'll see. We'll see. So there was that. That was kind of what I picked up. But I also picked up one more thing, or I guess I picked up the dark glitter one. But I did pick up, because I do love Titanosaurus. Everybody knows that. So I did pick up this awesome Marusan Titanosaurus. I love this colorway. So a lot of my Titanos are really wacky colorways, bright yellow or glitter or whatever they might be. But I do like the more, and I'm going to use the term loosely here, realistic, not movie accurate. But, this is like, if this was the paint job on the actual monster in the film, you'd be like, cool. Especially like Showa era, this would make sense. I mean, it comes out in translucent green glitter. Not so much. But I do dig this guy. The Marusan scope with the tongue sticking out is always great. And I love this one. And so I picked this guy up as well. My Titanosaurus collection is solid, not great. I think I'm at 7 or 8 of them. But I just love Titanosaurus. I love Terror of Mechagodzilla. I love Titanosaurus. I love just how awkwardly the design, like he's so tall, and that he doesn't have any like beam weapons, and we talked about this on Monster Islands. Like I tend to like the the Anguruses and Gorosauruses that have to use other tactics other than just shooting radiation or lasers. And I mean, I guess he has the tornado tail, so you got that. But I love Titanosaurus, and I was really excited to pick this guy up for a really, really good deal. So yeah, so cool stuff there. My favorite Titanosaurus Sofubi. You know what? It might be the M1, the red and blue one that you see a lot that comes with the mini Bullmark, Mecha Godzilla doing the touchdown pose. I like that one a lot. And then the Marusan, the bright yellow one, I really dig a lot. That was one of those I bought. I was like, I'm gonna sell this, and I was like, I don't want to sell this. Please don't sell. And then I was like, why don't I just keep it? So anyway, so not a ton of pickups. I have a lot of stuff coming in, and I'm hoping by the time Jake and I record the Gigan episode next week, I'll have some more cool stuff to show off. But right now, those are my two. But they're good too. I like the two. So anyway, so I guess I can talk about my state of collecting. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit already, but I'm a little nervous about space. But for the most part, I feel I'm in a good place as far as my rules, right? And all of us, we kind of put rules on ourselves. I love the president of YHS, the Godfather, Craig. He talks about his rules and how they're, ambiguous and always changing and volatile and whatnot. And it's kind of a running joke there. And it's funny because Craig's funny, but I think a lot of us do give ourselves sort of rules, whether it's by line or just overall in general. And we tend to go away from those. We tend to, the rules change over time, and that's fine. That's awesome. And my path has been very similar to a lot of kaiju collectors, where I've kind of gone through the lower price entry level stuff to Sofubi to, X Plus and whatnot. But I feel really good now where I don't have a fear of missing out on X Plus anymore. And I never really did, because I got into X Plus way later in the game than a lot of folks. It didn't mean a lot to me at those price points as a collector, and until I got a few and I was like, holy cow. So I don't have that fear of missing out. Now, with that being said, did I just pre-order 2 X Plus items like literally 30 minutes ago that just hopped on the Shonen Rick site today? Yeah, I did. So the Godzilla Gigan 25 centimeter 2-pack, and I don't even collect in that scale. I have one 25 centimeter. No, two. I have two 25 centimeters. Everything else I have is 30. And I even got a Defa reel, which I don't collect at all. Gigan, the Rick with the light up eye. So I wanted those. I got them. Now, it's easy to say you want every X Plus, because you do, but like, you know what I mean. Like, there's, I would love to have it, and there's like, I need it. I want it really bad. And if I get to that level, I'm all about it. But I tend to like, that's more of a, I think I'm getting to a place where I'm pretty good at kind of handpicking what I want. Whereas Sofubi, it's a little bit harder for me. And it's not necessarily a fear of missing out, because there's so many releases, there's so much stuff, and you can't just be like, that's cool, because if you do that, then you would literally buy like 15,000 figures a year. But I get a little bit more, I don't know, I think I might, I'll put it like this. Over 2022, I'm probably going to buy a lot more Sofubi items that I end up selling or giving away, just because I thought I wanted them a lot at the time, and maybe that wasn't the case. Whereas X Plus, I feel I'm going to be pretty darn accurate on it. So we'll see. But that's kind of where I'm at from a collecting standpoint. And I love when I get to talk to a lot of the other collectors around here and across the board, because it's so funny, the variety that and the interest of these people. So, and this is one of the cool things I think about kaiju collecting versus the more, I don't want to say popular, but the more kind of accessible lines, Star Wars and Ninja Turtles and Transformers and G.I. Joe. And I love all those lines to some degree, but at the end of the day, like, I'll compare kaiju to Star Wars, right? Both have tons of property, or tons of product out there across a wide time frame. And there's newer fans coming in all the time, and there's newer stuff being released today, and there's stuff that's 40, 50 years old that is very desirable. But here's the thing with Star Wars. You have people that are either they collect what they want, or they want to complete everything. You very rarely have people that only collect stormtroopers. Are there people there? Of course. I only care about Ewoks. I only care about, people from the prequels or this one film. Usually, and once again, generalized statement, usually you collect everything. Whereas in kaiju collecting, you will have people that I only care about certain kaiju, or I only care about certain design elements. Whether it's I only want Sofubi items that that are translucent, or I only want items from the Heisei era. Like that is more common, and just the fact that like everything kind of fits in general toy. It seems like when you talk about Star Wars, whereas Godzilla, you have hyper realism, you have hyper realistic statues, you have Sofubi, and these are broader terms than, yes, are there statues in Star Wars? Of course there's statues. There's tons of great ones, but it's not necessarily it's not as big of a chasm between statues and collecting action figures as in Sofubi, or excuse me, as in kaiju, where it's like that's a totally different collecting mindset and style, those that collect X Plus versus those that collect Sofubi. So it's very interesting, and it's very different. And I love that about kaiju collecting, but it is, like I said, it's very different. And it's a hard thing for people to understand when they're coming in from only collecting Transformers and G.I. Joe, right? Like, I need to get the latest Baroness, I need to get the latest Optimus Prime, is different than I need to find the one-day pop-up exclusive Marusan 350, Hedera with, rainbow glitter and whatever. Like, it's just a different world, and that happens all the time. It's not one celebration exclusive Luke Skywalker. It's every day there's multiple exclusives from different companies and different kaiju, and so it's just so different. And one's not better than the other. Please Star Wars fans, Ghostbusters fans, Transformers fans, don't take that. This is not a superiority play. It's a difference play, and it's one, I think it's an education piece that when people come in that listen to Jake and I talk about Godzilla collecting, it is different than some of the other type of toy collecting out there. And once again, it's not better or worse. It's just, it is what it is, right? But anyway, I've talked long enough about kind of collecting and what I picked up this week. I got 2 items, and I'm going to talk for 20 minutes about it. But so that was kind of cool. And then normally Jake and I would then transition very smoothly into talking about what we watched. And so this is an interesting one, because if you go back, for those that have listened from day one to YHS on Monster Island, when we first started talking about, hey, have you seen anything lately? Jake, I think the first time we did that, maybe episode 2 or 3, he mentioned a movie called The Legend of Firefly Marsh. Never heard of it. I think he read the back of the VHS, which was just amazing. And it was just, my mind was blown. And I had the hardest time finding this thing. Amazon sold out. There were no copies on eBay. I even went to my library because it's put out by the Phoenix Learning Group. So it's something that, they sold a lot to teachers and educators and such to play in their classrooms. There's a moral to be taught here. And I waited for like 6 weeks in the library, and then they said, we can't get access to a copy. Eventually, over the last, 7 or 8 months, at some point, the Phoenix Learning Group put them on their site for purchase, either a DVD or a digital copy. So I bought the DVD, had to find a DVD player, found one somewhere here in the house, and I watched it. And how Jake described it was spot on. It is something that you would totally see played in a classroom. And it was charming. It was better than it had any right to be. They treated it seriously. At first, it's funny. So at first, I was a little worried, and this is not to get on a religious tangent or anything, but I was worried because I think in the first 10 minutes, and it's only a 30-minute film, short film. And so they said 8 times, you got to have faith. You don't have to see it to believe it. You've never seen the pyramids or whatever, stuff that laced with some flawed logic, but yes. And I was like, is this like a something that we played at a Southern Baptist lock-in, to middle schoolers? What the heck? But it totally pivots away from that. It is not one of those. And if you like that, great. But it was interesting. So it's a pretty simple story, and there's not a lot to it. There's not a lot of unpredictable nature to it, but it's well done. It's well acted, but essentially it's a large plesiosaur type dinosaur is stuck in the Finger Lakes and stuck in a lock. And And the grandpa, as a kid, was, I don't know if he discovered it, but like he had a run in with him and his buddy, who went on to become a famous author, or at least a regionally famous author. And his grandson would come and listen to these stories. And the grandpa turned out to be kind of the guy that oversees the lake there, the marsh. And the grandfather was the one that the adults were the one that were like, yeah, this is real. And the kids were like, no way, which is kind of a nice, a little bit of a juxtaposition from what we typically see here and see. So it was cool. And then of course the goal was like to, they're building condos and commercial real estate was coming over and putting a mini mall or something there on the marsh. And, if the dinosaur didn't get out, he would never get out and be trapped there forever. So they risked their lives and let him, set him free. And so, okay, the end. Well done. I mean, there were actually some tense moments in there when they're freeing him. I was like, wow, the monster looks great. It's a great kind of plesiosaur from the 80s style of special effects. Like, it looked great. It was fun. There was nothing super hokey about it. It could have been, but they didn't. It was cool. As a kid, I would have loved this. And then the cool part is at the very end, like it swims out to sea. You think the end. Oh, but no. It arrives in what is loosely supposed to be Scotland, I believe. And at least this is how I interpreted it. And in the distance, you see another head ripped from the water. And so this is supposed to be some connectivity there to Loch Ness and Nessie, which I thought was hilarious and awesome and amazing. But they do it, and I say hilarious, like it wasn't done tongue in cheek. It was done like in a very like realistic, like treated with respect type moment. And it was great. It was a fun 30 minutes. I think my kids are a little young right now for it, but that's something a 6-7-year-old would, especially one that likes dinosaurs or monsters or fairy tales, I think would love it. Highly recommend it. Legend of Firefly Marsh, Phoenix Learning Group. You can find their site and you can get it from there. It's great. And so thank you, Jake, for that recommendation. It sucks it took me almost a year to watch it, but I'm glad it turned out as good as you said it was. And I loved it. Like I said, charming is the right word for this. And it is, it will warm your heart. It's really good. And I absolutely dug it. So that's number one on the what I've watched. The other two might be a little bit more, I don't know, in depth. First thing is, let's talk Ultraman. Now, I'm not going to get to a deep dive in Ultraman because that's a whole podcast. Not like a single podcast, like a whole podcast series. But I do want to say, like, and we've talked a little bit about this on YHS, on Monster Island, not a ton. We haven't gone too deep down, kind of like the Henshin subgenre of Tokusatsu, but your Kamen Riders and Super Sentai and Ultramans of the world. But we've talked about, both Jake and I think are similar in that we didn't necessarily get into Ultraman at the same time that we got into Kaiju and Godzilla. A lot of people do. We've always been aware of it, but like, did we sit down and watch all of the Ultraman episodes? No. So we're very similar, but so it's newer. It's not new, but it's newer than like Godzilla and some other franchises. And so recently I've just been rewatching Ultraman 66, and it's one of those where like a lot of the episodes I've seen them multiple times. It's kind of one that I can put on in the background, even subtitles. Put it on the background. It's bright, it's colorful, it's vibrant, it's silly, it's fun, and it's great background. It really is. I'm never gonna stop and like, oh, I want to watch this entire episode and stop what I'm doing. But it's also like I'm never like ignoring it. It's happy. It's like having a really upbeat, positive song on in the background while you're cleaning or something. And but I've been watching it, not just keeping it on in the background. And it's reinforced like my theories on the first one, or my not theory, I guess, but how I interpret or I, kind of view it. That first series is very uneven. It is like, it can be a little schizophrenic for me, and since like it's an episode that I absolutely adore, and then there's an episode that I'm like, whoa, like no. So I envision me having an episode where Jake and I talk about, the top five, at least our bottom five Ultraman from Ultraman 66. But like, I love like the first episode, the last episode, and there's the monster graveyard and stuff like that. But there's some that I just like, that was a hard watch, and then there's some kaiju that it's like, and we get like low budget, it's really silly, you're gonna see heads fall off and suit zippers and things like that. Like you can't watch Ultraman going there and thinking it's going to be amazing. And we're all pretty accustomed to that, being fans of Godzilla, but even a step below or above, depending how you look at it. And some of them it's just hard. But like I mean, like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on these episodes or on the episodes that I absolutely love and absolutely hate. But I'm just so shocked, and it's crazy that there's so much variability because it is such a formulaic show, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like problem, monsters at the heart of the problem. Science Patrol can't quite figure it out, can't quite do it. Ultraman is kind of the deciding factor. Everybody's happy. And now some episodes stray away from that, of course. But for the most part, like, that's what it is. And I think that's why the last episode's so jarring, the conclusion there. I think that's why it's so damn good, is because it does, not only does it break away from the formula, but it just catches you off guard. Even though I've seen that, I don't even know how many times, like, I still am like, kudos to Tsuburaya and them for doing that. But anyway, I'm excited to maybe go a little bit deeper into Ultraman. I've never had any real desire to do a lot of the after Ultra 7. Really, to me, like it's never really been something that's been top of mind. But I'm excited to eventually get down and do that. I don't know if I'll do that with Super Sentai. Kamen Riders, when I want to revisit the first series again. I really like the first series of Kamen Rider, so I'm excited to rewatch that. If I do that, I have to get Travis Alexander from Kaiju Weekly on. I mean, that guy knows more about Kamen Rider than all of us put together. That would be really fun. But I don't know, in Ultraman, I really think we need to do some deep dives into that. But I just love how uneven the first season. I love it, but it is uneven, and I know a lot of people will disagree because that's a good way to pick a fight. Go to a tokusatsu room and tell people that Ultraman's not your favorite. I mean, people be throwing right hands at me. So, but anyway, I've been watching a lot of Ultraman and will continue to do so. And at some point, I would like to have a little roundtable on that and really just kind of see how different, when there's nearly 40 episodes in the first series, like how different our opinions are on what the good episodes were versus what the bad episodes were. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. So watch that. And the other one, going a little bit more on brand. So if you'd have asked me over the last, 20 years, my favorite Heisei movies, I kind of rank them. And, at the top's always going to be Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. Always at the top's going to be Biollante. And I would say, and Destroya, sorry, those three. And always at the bottom is going to be Space Godzilla and Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. And that middle tier of like Mothra, and 85 or Return of kind of like fluctuate and stuff like that, right? But I rewatched Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, and I've seen that one so many times, and I think you always hear me. The first thing out of my mouth is always like convoluted time traveling storyline, unnecessary. It's a very bloated film. There was all the pseudo manufactured anti-Americanism stuff that came out of it that I think kind of like, I don't know, it just spoiled what could have been a more fun film. And but I rewatched it recently. I have to tell you, like, I'm softening my stance on Ghidorah. Now, is it, I want to be careful, I'll say this. Is there still Major Spielberg, and is there still the Dorats, which I know some people disagree with me on this. Is there still some of the controversial stuff, the awesome running scene, still one of my favorites. So Red Dwarf. But yeah, of course. But I think when you start focusing on like some of the positives, they're very good. And I think what really stood out to me is, and this is not going to catch anybody off guard, I'm not breaking news here, right? But like I've really focused in on Yoshia Tsuchiya's Shindo. And Tsuchiya just does such a good job. And we all talk about the scene, right? His stare down with Godzilla, but that whole movie until he has the stare down with Godzilla, he's wonderful. And yeah, I mean, Tsuchiya is not any stranger to big roles. I mean, even in Godzilla, I mean, Commander of Planet X. I mean, he was the Human Vapor. He was the leader of the Mysterians. I mean, he was had a major role in Seven Samurai. Like, I mean, the dude's the dude. But I think Shindo might have been, at least quality per second on screen, might be his best performance. And it's so good. and maybe it's because I was focusing on it so much that it was quicker to overlook some of the other elements, or I've just seen it 55 times. And so guess what? Like, it doesn't bother me how stupid the major Spielberg scenes are. Like, maybe. But it's one, I think all you have to do to appreciate that movie is watch it 75 times. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the law of increasing returns on that one. I don't know. But I feel every time I've watched it, I hate it less. I don't know if I'm going to put it over. Maybe it can get close to Mothra. Maybe that's the next. Can it eventually get over that? I don't know. But Tsuchiya stands out, and I forget the actor's name that plays Terasawa. I mean, he's fine in it, and the casting is great. I mean, you have a lot of great cameos. I think the casting is wonderful, and the human element, the human performances are pretty solid. To me, it's not Spielberg. It's not the Dorats. It's not the time traveling necessarily that really still kind of annoys me. And of course, the visual of Mecha King Ghidorah is great. Need that X Plus. They need to make one. The issue with me is, like, I've never enjoyed, and we talked about this actually on our New Year New to Kaiju with Abby. I just never enjoyed they were so specific about Godzilla's origins. And of course, that's, once again, not breaking news here, but that is the one thing that has not ever really sat right with me, and it has not improved over time. Like, it's not that they did a terrible job with it. It's not that it's not a logical idea. It's the fact that Godzilla as a representation of the negativity and what nuclear power can do, and the misuse of nuclear energy can do, and radiation, and with the after effects of radiation and everything. It's the fact that it's more vague and ambiguous, right? It could be anywhere. It could be causing anything. The fact that it's so specific to the one dinosaur, and a friendly dinosaur, at that, it's like Denver, the last dinosaur. I don't know. I think it takes a little bit of the luster out. And though they try to bump it up by, saying that basically that there's the nuclear sub and it had even more power and made it more powerful, it just didn't. It was too little too late. So I still think that's the fundamental flaw in the film. Everything else you can look past, because a lot of Godzilla movies have silly stuff. I mean, we praise Godzilla vs. Biollante, and I mean, it has a corny cartoon sound effect, the boing on his head. So, like, we can look past that. So I can look past Major Spielberg, but I can't look past kind of the too much specificity around the origins of Godzilla. But once again, softening on it, I think Tsuchiya is really the key there, and that role of Shindo is so good, and he's so wonderful. I mean, it's not even just the scene. It's just the fact that you take this guy that he has to walk the line of being both a military commander that is about to die. Him and his garrison are trapped, and they're about to get just waylaid by the American military. And do that authentically. And then he has to become a dinosaur-obsessed, eccentric billionaire that has to shield answers from these reporters and this nosy writer and everything. And he does that with even more authenticity. And then he's also supposed to have the emotional chops to be able to deliver one of the most emotional scenes in all the Godzilla continuum. Not many can do that. Tsuchiya was, I think, uniquely made for that role, and he does a wonderful job. So kudos to the late great Tsuchiya there for Shindo. But I think Shindo outshines the movie. It's kind of like Jeff Bridges and The Crazy Heart. But anyway, that was a random comment. But anyway, so yeah, that. So that was those were kind of the three things that I watched. I'm watching some Ultraman. I did just finish King Ghidorah 91, and then I did watch Legend of Firefly Marsh. And don't watch them all. I mean, I recommend them all to some degree. Not every Ultraman episode, but to some degree. So the next thing that we typically do, as I'm still rolling here, we talk about the news, and there's been a little news. Some of it I'm going to say for my conversation with Jake, because I don't want to steal all of it. But I want to do a follow-up to all the news that came out of Wonderfest, because there was a lot. There were so many great new releases and stuff that came out, and a lot of them will be on Toku Toy Town. And this episode is brought to you by Toku Toy Town, your home for Kaiju collectibles, Tokusatsu toys, and rare Sofubi. We know you have great taste in your podcast because you're listening to us. Well, hey, how about you get some great taste in your Kaiju collectibles at TokuToytown.com. Anyway, that was a non-paid advertisement. So But there was a lot of cool stuff that came out of it. And so I mentioned it, I alluded to it earlier, the Godzilla versus Gigan, the 2-pack, the 25 centimeter line from X Plus is out. The Gigan and the Varan D4Ls are out right now. You can go order those from the Shonen Rick site, but also from Awesome Collector and some of the other places. I'm sure it'll be on Big Bad Toy Store if you want to wait an extra 7 months to get it. They're out there. So good stuff there. Those things, I think, start shipping in July or August, which is great. But the M1 the M1 54 that was the Subaraya Museum exclusive originally, like the guy with the plane, that's coming out soon. I think we're starting to see some of the M1s, the What to Do with the Dead Kaiju have been out there, and some of the other cool stuff. So that's just wanted to mention that, like, hey, the stuff's getting out there now. The Sun Guts, especially the skeletal Shin final form is awesome. Like, that stuff's coming out there. So go out there, buy it. Support all these great Sofubi manufacturers and retailers. I know one that's really great and is very happy to do business with you. But there's that stuff that's out there. But there's a few other things that were that hit recently, and I got to talk about the XM Studios, the Ultraman one that was released. And it's funny because I was talking about just watching Ultraman in that final episode, and just how, like, I don't know, shocking is not the right word, but I love how they went about it. And one of the collectibles that kind of hit recently, and I'm trying to pull it up here, so if I can find it here. There it is. The XM Studios released the kind of not final scene, but the final episode, Ultraman, where he's standing over the Science Patrol headquarters. And that thing, it was XM Studios. That thing is absolutely stunning. And once again, like, it's cool because of the detail, and you get Ultraman in a defensive pose above the Science Patrol headquarters, which is about to be destroyed. And I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like kind of the final act of that original Ultraman. Not the final one, but you know what I mean, the final episode. At the time, it's the final act, but before Arashi saves the day. But I love it, and I think that's one that I granted it'll probably be $1,000. I think it is like $1,049, but this is one that for an Ultraman fan, I could see it being worth it because there's nothing out there like this. It's either just Ultraman, you get some of the Metacom Science Patrols, the Sofubi items, but this is wonderful. So I absolutely thought that was worth talking about because it was so cool and so unique. And the other one was I saw that the Godzilla store is re-releasing some of the 50th anniversary Marusan Godzilla store exclusive Lucky Bag Gigans. Great. Those things have been impossible to get. Like, I have one, and I have the silver one, and I was able to, Toku Toy Line was able to secure one, like the rose goldy one. It actually was kind of red, actually, but it appeared with the glitter. And we got one. That's two. And one, like I said, one was me. I'm not letting that bad boy go. These things have been hard to get. I saw that they're re-releasing that, which is great. And hopefully we'll get more of these out in the wild. That's too cool of a figure. I get you want exclusivity, right? And you want some, like, I want to be in an exclusive club that has this figure. This is too good of a figure, Marusan. Like, this is advertising and marketing. Like, you can't have this figure and not want more Marusan. And I saw they also releasing a Gigan plush that was really cool, and just some other Gigan merchandise. But the big news for me, and I once again mentioned it earlier briefly, a new Marusan 89, this green glitter with yellow dorsal fins and kind of yellow streaks and yellow goldish claws and toes and stuff. It's awesome. I mean, it's a must-have. So I don't know how easy that boy is going to be to get, but those two items, really excited when those are going to be out in the marketplace, re-releasing the Gigan and this Marusan Godzilla 89. So very cool. So that was some of the other news. Outside of that, not a ton. Those were, I'd say, the biggest two. I would say there's the biggest two out there from a news standpoint. Guys, I get it. There's the one big news item that may have come out of Toho. I'm not talking about that now. Jake and I will cover that hopefully next week. So I'm going to punt that one. We'll be like the 900th person to talk about it and give our projections on who it could be or what it could be about and all that good stuff. But we will save that one. And then as far as I don't have a main topic, I did have a couple things I was just kind of thinking about this week, and I bring them up here. I mean, I could go 30 seconds on them, but one of the things was, I was when I was watching the Jeffries, and I was listening to some old the old catalog, the back catalog on YHS, and I was listening to some Ghostbusters stuff. And obviously, those that are in the Ghostbusters world, I'm not, but those that are, no, they're kind of the core to that fandom, and they have these like regional groups, right? And they have the Georgia Ghostbusters, I'm sure there's the Texas Ghostbusters or whatever, and they do lots of good stuff. That's not what I'm to talk about, but they have these regional fandoms. I feel like I don't think that happens here with kaiju. And I'm curious, and I'm not saying like there'll be groups that go out and they'll do charitable events, but I'm even talking about like, I mean, it seems like a lot of and once again, outsider looking in, I'm going to say things about the Ghostbusters community I know nothing about. But you do have this regional flair, right? This regional camaraderie that is, the Alabama Ghostbusters, the New Jersey Ghostbusters all know each other and stuff like that. And we just don't have these regionalized fandoms in kaiju. And maybe it's because we're so coastal, because with a lot of international properties, it's really heavy, obviously, in the West Coast and the East Coast, specifically like New York, and then of course like with with Japanese, obviously with LA and San Francisco, and to some degree Seattle and such factoring in there. I don't know, because it's so coastal, and then Chicago is big, even though it's not on the coast, because G-Fest has been there for so long and it's a huge city. But I miss that. I would love to have the Texas Kaiju meetup and to do things kaiju related. And it's not, you can't give me the whole, well, there's not always Godzilla media, or there hasn't always been Godzilla media. There hasn't always been Ghostbusters media, and they do a damn good job of it. So once again, not saying that it's there needs to be a regional fandom because of we need to create these formal groups that, go do charitable events and stuff. I'm just saying, it's such a international and national property, and kind of how the fans view themselves. I think that'd be cool to be able to have more regional, kind of like I said, regional fandoms, regional camaraderie, people that are proud to be part of, insert city or state or region here, kaiju fans. And it might even lend itself to, as you grow and foster that, to more cool events. A lot of these groups, you rent out theaters and do screenings, you do things like that, do toy swaps, do, you name it. You pull together resources, fly in somebody to do a meet and greet, do an autograph signing, things like that, which could be really cool. Or just go out and have a beer and talk about why Titanosaurus is awesome. I don't know. But that's one thing that just always struck me as odd, that you don't have as many local groups. And yeah, I'm sure if we had a headquarters, it would be in New York, probably right outside of Toy Tokyo, or it would be in San Francisco or LA or Chicago. I guess Chicago has G-Fest, so they already got something. But I guess that's Rosemont. But anyway, I think that would be cool. So I'm curious, are there reasons, like, am I overlooking something that's so simple, or are there regional fandoms y'all just have blocked me? I don't know. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I would just felt that it would be cool to have more localized stuff with kaiju, because there's enough of us out there. I mean, believe me, I sell enough. I know where a lot of the fans are based on where I send a lot of my toys. But there's enough in every region, every major region, to have some kaiju fandom and stuff. So that would be really cool. And when you go to cons and when you go to toy shows, you might have more of a presence when that fandom has been cultivated in that market. I mean, I've been to, I don't know, 5 or 6 toy shows here as a vendor, and I don't know if I've ever seen any booth that's been exclusively kaiju and Sofubi or kaiju collectibles outside of mine. There have been some that have like a random Playmates here, or a random Imperial Godzilla here or something, but for the most part, it's very, very not kaiju focused. And I know that's not because there's not a lot of kaiju fans here, but just doing that and sharing that information and drumming up support, we might see more people want to come down here to be able to booth and be a vendor and get those great items and that knowledge and everything and that camaraderie, and spread it across the landscape. And I think regionalized fandoms would help out a lot to that. And it doesn't do anything to discredit or disservice the national ones. They're always going to be there. The Facebook groups are always going to be there. And you're still going to be able to go to Collect All Monsters and talk to those guys, and the Kaiju Collectors Club and the X Plus Collectors Club. That's great. But I think there could be more for those kind of mid-level and smaller grassroots types of events. And I think that would cultivate even more of an engaged fan group than, because we're just not compared to the other major properties in the US. It's just not, that's the reality. And I would love for that to change to a bit. And could a state like Texas or a city, metropolitan area like Dallas Fort Worth be one that's not traditionally thought of as a kaiju community? Maybe it could. It has enough people and that probably has enough fans. But I think it would be a good kind of petri dish to understand if kaiju collecting in Godzilla could be a region, and Tokusatsu maybe you broaden it even more, could have a nice regional fandom. And it's crazy because, I'll talk about what I know here. I mean, we have very little in kaiju and Tokusatsu, but because Funimation is here and some other big companies, like anime is gigantic in Dallas Fort Worth. I mean, it has 4 or 5 of the biggest conventions in the country happen here. So like, it's kind of a pseudo adjacent lot, it's Japanese culture, right? So I don't know. I think there's something there, and I think I would love to explore that. And so that's something that's just been on my mind. The other thing that's been on my mind, and a little bit lighter, I would say, was I was on one of those national fan groups. I want to say it was the Collect All Monsters group. I could be wrong, but it was, because it was David Dobko, the great David Dobko, one of the most intelligent and smartest folks when it comes to resources, when it comes to the world of Sofubi, but just kaiju in general. And I love him and Kyle Yount when we sitting in through watching YouTube, and those two and John Ruffin and Leslie Chambers and Christine are all just chatting away and talking. It's great to see just the knowledge being shared and spread. But anyway, David Dobko, great guy, awesome toy photographer as well. I think he posed the question, like, what if there was a Sofubi Hall of Fame? Like, what would you induct? And there was all these great answers. Like, every one of them could have been in there. But I was actually thinking about that. Like, what if there was? Physical or virtual, doesn't matter. If it's more like the Baseball Hall of Fame or it's more like the WWE Hall of Fame. I think it's an interesting topic. And I think it's one that you could really break down and have a very good conversation on. And I think a lot of folks I saw and they were posting their favorite figures. Nothing wrong with that. There's a reason they're your favorite, probably because there was good stuff that it looked cool, or it was significant, or whatever. Might just have sentimental value. Maybe your first girlfriend gave it to you. I don't know. But when you're talking about the initial class, right? I mean, you think about the initial classes of Hall of Fames. I think of the initial class of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, you got Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb and Walter Johnson and Honus Wagner and Christy Mathewson, right? Like, other than Cy Young, you got all of like the early pioneers of the game. When you talk about the first class of Sofubi, I think you have to be careful not to let personal, because it's art, right? These aren't statistics. It's art pieces. But like, once again, it's something that even something as fictional as the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, like, you still have these characters were given enough, responsibility to carry a title belt or make money. Like, this is interesting how you can do, because it's an art piece, right? And you can't just go by what sold the most, because availability and lots of variables that factor into that. But anyway, so here's where my head was at. And I was like, well, you have to have, and I say have, like, you don't have to have any of this, but I would start with that original Marusan, 1966 Godzilla, brought the concept of the J-Tail into the vernacular. That one has to be in there, because it's the first vinyl Godzilla, and it's still being repurposed today in countless colorways. So it has lasting ability. It's iconic. It's there, right? Like, it is truly, and it's Marusan. It's the first, and it wasn't just the first and you forgot about it, but it's the first and it's still held to such high esteem. So that first one has to be in there. Kind of in my early pioneers mindset, I also include that 1970 Bullmark giant Godzilla. And the reason for that is obvious. It was in Godzilla vs. Hedorah. It probably had more eyeballs on it than any of them at the time, because it was in there. And it's such an iconic scene. And it's a great figure that has been repurposed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Those two, I think, are must-haves. And then, since it's Sofubi Hall of Fame, and we'll condense it down. We'll say kind of Kaiju Tokusatsu Sofubi, because we could get into some stuff that I'm sure is really important. Like we could talk about a lot of the robots and the superheroes and things like that. Let's say it's kaiju and tokusatsu for now. That the initial line from Ultra Q, the Ultra Monsters and such and whatnot, I don't know if there's one that stands out as like this represents that line, right? Is it Kanagon? Is it who is it, right? I think that line kind of has to go in as a series, as an early pioneer, like because it truly was the first, like the first Sofubi kaiju line, and if it did not succeed, we wouldn't have got anything. So those three are kind of like in that early pioneer, right? Like those are no-brainers. And one I know is a little bit of a cheat because it's a line, but you can induct. There's no rules here, so I can induct the line in as the first ballot Hall of Famer. Then, you don't want to just go entirely like all the old stuff, right? Yeah, it's important. Agreed. But that's not that. The Hall of Fame wouldn't be as accessible and mean as much. So I was thinking, what is a Sofubi item that is like when you say Sofubi, or you see it represented in most media, what's an item that is typically chosen for that? Or what's one that was our gateway to collecting Sofubi, for the gateway for a lot of people? And I think one satisfies both those. And I think it's the Haru Nakajima, the M1. It's been repurposed many times, which is a good sign. I think, I don't know, 3 out of every 5 people I talked to, that was their first Sofubi item. Like it really was one of the variants. And it's used, like you see that in whether it's shops or, advertising for shops or online stores or whatever. When you talk Sofubi, you typically see a Haru Nakajima in there somewhere, right? Like it is, you almost have to have one. In fact, I don't have one up at Toku Toy Town right now. I've sold the ones I had. Like I feel like I'm not a real Sofubi seller. So that one, the M1 Nakajima, to me, I think is a wonderful representation and one of the best. And then I was thinking for the other one, and I guess we could talk rules, like what, like in baseball, you have to sit out 5 years, right, before you can be eligible for Hall of Fame. I do think there needs to be like a 10-year marker because we're not going to be inducting, the glitter disco goji, as much as I love that, because we don't know its lasting power. We don't know its impact. We don't know if it's truly going to be revolutionize Sofubi or not. But, if we have like 10 years, I think that's a fair statement. And to me, like I was thinking of what are some more modern, not 60s and 70s, more modern Sofubi items that have really changed how we collect Sofubi, or ones that are super desirable and still are today, and everybody wants to have one regardless if they like the subject matter that it is. And 2 popped into my head. One was the Marmot Godzilla Tower. It's a chase figure, but one that like enough people have that it's like it's the signature piece to a lot of collections. It's their favorite piece. It's cool. I mean, the subject matter is awesome and unique, and it's so Sofubi. We don't never have when I get that X Plus Godzilla Tower, maybe we'll talk, but like that's the quintessential thing to own, to represent Godzilla Tower. There's a couple variants. It's expensive. It's exclusive. It's hard to find, but not, it's not impossible, right? Like, it's really cool and also iconic. And it's one of those great chase figures. And it's one, when you have that, I think a lot of people have bought that because of the status that comes with it. Like I'm a legitimate collector, not upper tier, doesn't make you upper echelon, type stuff, but it's one that's like, I'm serious about this. And the other one would be one of the early Marmot Desugochis. I mean, everybody in the Godzilla collecting world in Sofubi wants to have at least one for their collection. Some people have like 18 of them, but that's one that, once again, you can buy one right now if you want one, if you want to spend the money. It's not impossible. A lot of really serious collectors have one. It's a beautiful sculpt. It's been redone 1,000,000 times. It's been customized so many times. And I think it's really important to the world of Sofubi. So those are the ones that kind of popped into my head, like as first ballot. I'm not saying these are the only ones worthy. It'd be a very small Hall of Fame. But if you take the original Marusan Godzilla, the original Bullmark Giant Godzilla, the original Ultra Kaiju line that came out in Marusan in '66. You take either and maybe both the Marmot Desugoji and the Marmot Godzilla Tower, or one of them, and then the M1 Haru Nakajima. To me, that's a damn good class. Say I have a Tokusatsu Godzilla Kaiju focus, Sofubi Hall of Fame. That would be my initial class, some variation of that. And then if you think about coming after that, that's when I think you can start looking at, maybe some more of the artistically sound ones, more the modern ones, but then also sprinkle in, I think the Bullmark King Ghidorah has to be in there at some point. One of the 1,000 Heteras, because Hetera is the most made Sofubi item. Like one of the original Heteras has to be in there. And then, then you talk about like the M1 Miss Namakawa or the Shobaji. I'm just trying to think of ones that like so many people have, they're that significant. And then of course the other question, because this is the one that I throw a wrinkle in, are we using Sofubi how we use it, like how we use anime, where it's like a specific style of animation, or are we taking it literally? Because I mean, obviously if it's just Sofubi, then like we can expand that out to the larger world of soft vinyl and vinyl toys in kaiju. So then if that's the case, then I say you have to have the 62 Bandai Godzilla from 1983, their initial launch. Like that one is, you have to have that. And maybe as a line, the oft forgotten but shouldn't be Yamakatsu line that came in, the originals, right? I don't know if one stands out on that one. They were just all kind of like dumped in the world. Like, here you go. And yeah, but I think those kind of have to be in there as well. It just, like I said, once again, it depends how broad are we going to be with this thing. But yeah, I mean, I think you have a lot of really good options there. I think you have some really, really, really cool ones that you could make an argument for a lot of different ones in the first class, but even the subsequent classes, there's no wrong answers, right? So anyway, between regional fandoms and my mythical Sofubi Hall of Fame, and I say mine, I stole it from somebody else I saw in there. I was like, that is a great conversation to have. And I wish Jake was here to have that conversation, but he's not. And I survived. So anyway, thank you guys for listening to me. I'm going to shut up now. We got more YHS Monster Island coming next week when we talk about Godzilla versus Gigan. Happy 50th. I think March 12th maybe is the actual release date off the top of my head. That sounds right. I might be wrong. So that's going to be something to look forward to. And of course, we always say this. Please leave us a review. We do appreciate it. We know there's a ton of kaiju content out there. It could be, Collect All Monsters. It could be Kaiju Weekly, podcast, YouTube, you name it. Like there's a lot of cool stuff out there that talk about movies, that talk about toys, that talk about the fandom in general. And we appreciate you guys choosing us to listen to. Whether we're your first choice or your eighth choice, doesn't matter. We just are glad we're a choice on the wonderful, smorgasbord of kaiju content that you can consume. But we do, I don't say we would like you more, but we might like you more if you go leave us a really good review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever it is. Like that means a lot to us. It helps us with that evil algorithm and lets us get above some of these other podcasts that aren't as good as us. But please do that. And of course, check out all the other great YHS content. Go watch the Geoffreys on YouTube. I mean, it's amazing. And then of course, have some, the main podcast, YHS Prime, as I like to call it, the main YHS, the original, with Craig and Abby and Jake, when they're talking everything Ghostbusters, Jurassic Park, Jaws, horror movies, Star Wars, you name it. And then the hit sensation every Tuesday night on YouTube at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. That's Toy Anxiety. It's those same three. It's the triumvirate of podcasting royalty with Academy Award-winning Ryan Dole, Sir Ryan of Dole. And they have just built an empire in the toy collecting world, and it's the best. And I watch a lot of toy shows. I like your Toy Galaxies, your Pixel Dans of the world. All those guys are great. Geek Dad Life is awesome. Go watch Geek Dad Life for sure. But when it comes down to it, Toy Anxiety is the best. And there's so many other cool things they do. When Kenobi starts, they'll do another Kenobi weekly show, or do a Kenobi weekly show like they did with the Boba Book Club for Book of Boba Fett, and Midnight Mando before that. YHS just does a lot of good stuff. There's the Ghostbusters Containment Unit talking about all things Ghostbusters, autographs, which is amazing. Such a very specific podcast, but those guys put out a ton of content, and it's really, really, really good. And then, of course, if you have some extra finances and you're not spending it all at Toku Toy Town, go to the YHS Patreon. They drop some really cool stuff. They do Zoom hangs. You get to hang out with those guys. And they do watch-alongs, and they do some really cool custom stuff. Jake versus Stephen King is wonderful. Craig just in his car talking about the state of toy collecting. He does a much better job as kind of the Vince Scully, the Joey Styles, the one-man booth than I am. He's a pro at it. I'll make it through here, but it's really good. And then there's just so much other great content. Go check them out. They're wonderful people doing wonderful stuff. And I know you're a wonderful listener, so I think it's a marriage made in heaven. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Hopefully check us out again next week when we talk about Godzilla versus Gigan. I'm Jay Key, captainless, without the Tattooed Titan of Tokusatsu, Jacob Walsh. But you know what? We made it, guys. We did an hour. We're good. We talked a lot about stuff. And hey, go start a regional fandom for Kaiju. That'd make me happy. All right, guys. Have a good one. Catch you later. Adios.